Hey everybody, it's Crypto-Anarchist here, and I'm bringing you guys a video on privacy-focused cryptocurrencies, their algorithms, as well as where I see their prices going. So the first one I want to talk about is CoinJoin. So CoinJoin, it's mostly used by Dash. That's the main one you would know, the main coin that uses CoinJoin. But what happens with CoinJoin is if you send a transaction out of your wallet address, it gets mixed up with a bunch of other transactions. So you might send 5 Bitcoin to somebody, but it actually gets sent to them in like 4 different transactions, one of 3 Bitcoin, one of 1 Bitcoin, one of half a Bitcoin, and the other of half a Bitcoin. And so that's the way CoinJoin works. And the way this works is because instead of having one like transaction lead directly to somebody else, there's multiple hops that it has to follow. So it basically offers almost like if you understand the Tor Onion routing network, it offers that sort of that sort of privacy, but for your transactions, whereas Tor offers privacy for your IP address. So that's the way that the CoinJoin protocol works. But if we look at the slide here, the two coins that use CoinJoin that I know of that I'm sort of watching are Dash and Exclusive. I actually did buy some Dash back when it was 335. It was less than half a Dash, so not much. So I made some money on this, but you know, I don't have much of an investment in it whatsoever. I think the price of Dash could hit $2,000. But if Bitcoin drops, it will too. And the other thing with Dash is there's better privacy-focused cryptocurrencies, and they are much lower priced than Dash. So Dash, I think it's a very solid investment. It's probably got more stability than most privacy cryptocurrencies, but because it's got more stability, it's got less upside potential as well. The other cryptocurrency that uses CoinJoin is Exclusive. It's a proof of stake CoinJoin coin. It already it failed and restarted, so you never really know how one of those is going to go, but it could become the dominant proof of stake CoinJoin coin. Pivx used to be that coin, but they switched to the zero coin protocol. Exclusive could take that spot, and if they did, the price could increase to, like $4 or $5 or something. I don't really know. It could increase significantly, especially if Pivx takes off. Both Pivx, well, Pivx could really take off. If Pivx takes off, then Exclusive might as well. You never really know though. But the big problem with Exclusive is that proof of stake is not really accepted by the community, and there's a reason for that. And the reason is just that there's a lot of investment in proof of work, a lot more than in proof of stake. So there's a lot more proof that it works in the real world. But anyways, if we go on to the next privacy protocol that we're going to talk about here, it's ring signatures. Now, ring signatures is really only used by Monero right now. I know there's more out there. Monero is really the only one I'm watching, though. The way ring signatures works is people put a bunch of transactions in a small, basically ring. Like there's a bunch of transactions that are sent to a ring of users, and so this ring of users will verify certain bits and pieces of the transactions that they are sent, but the users in the ring do not see the entire transaction, so the blockchain is verified, but nobody really sees it. So the ring signatures, they're not technically speaking zero knowledge because you do give small bits of information to each user of the ring, but the information that you give to the users of the ring is meaningless. So it acts as though it's zero knowledge. Like it's not completely zero knowledge, but it acts as though it is. The only issue with ring signatures is they have kind of a bit of blockchain bloat. There's a lot of data usage in creating a ring signature transaction, and so it has issues scaling. Now, Monero is thinking of moving to ZK Starks, which is zero cash protocol without the trusted setup, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But if we're going to just talk about the price I think Monero could hit, the thing about Monero is it's meant to be a privacy focused cryptocurrency, and so it's kind of different from Dash. Dash is meant to be like Bitcoin but with the option to use privacy. Monero, like, you use privacy all the time, there's no option, it's just that's the way it is. So it's a completely different sort of market, like similar market but different niche, I guess you could say. But anyways, the price of Monero could easily hit $1,000. It's got better privacy than Dash. It would be hard for Monero to reach parity with Dash. Obviously, Dash is worth more than or worth less than $1,000 right now. So if I think Monero hit 1,000, Dash would probably be maybe 2,000 or something. But Monero can definitely gain ground on Dash. But the only issue with Monero that I really see coming to it, like it can deal with a blockchain bloat issue if it figures out ZK Starks, but the blockchain auditability will hinder widespread acceptance. So it's all privacy all the time. That can be an issue. Sometimes people want to use the blockchain as their own personal, basically, accountant. With Monero, you can't do that because you don't really have access to the blockchain. So the next protocol we're going to talk about is the zero coin protocol. Now the zero coin protocol was the first actual implementation of zero knowledge cryptocurrencies. And what I mean by that is when you mint a crypto or a zero coin, the way that zero coin works, like we'll talk about in regards to Zcoin here. So with Zcoin, Zcoin is the currency that has value. They also mint zero coins for transactions that use the zero coin protocol. The zero coin token is valueless. The only purpose of the zero coin token is to be what actually does the transaction, but it gets destroyed afterwards. So when you want to do a zero coin transaction or a zero knowledge transaction with Zcoin, you will mint a zero coin. So you mint a zero coin and you now have zero coins. These zero coins will act as Z coins and do the transaction, but they get destroyed afterwards so that the transaction data is lost. And so there's no blockchain analysis that can be done whatsoever. So with Monero, you had the issue of or it wasn't zero knowledge because you get a slight bit of information. Again, that information was meaningless, so it acts as though it's zero knowledge, even though it isn't. With zero coin, it actually is zero knowledge, so there's no information linking anything. So you know, there's no blockchain analysis whatsoever. The thing that Monero and Zcoin both suffer from is they can be prone to sort of timing attacks where well, actually, Monero is not prone to timing attacks anymore. Monero used to be prone to timing attacks where however many transactions were done per block, that's how many, or that's the anonymity set you would have. So if there were 3 transactions done in a block, people could figure out your transaction is one of those 3. If they really did a lot of work outside of the blockchain, like if you had a private detective watching your every move, they could figure out your transaction when it was one of those 3. So they had one of those issues before, but Monero fixed that. With zero coin, you sort of have a timing attack issue. It's different though because with when you create a zero coin, it gets mixed with all the zero coins that have ever been created before. So your anonymity set is equal to all the zero coins that have ever been created before, like however many times that process has been done. So it's way higher than Monero's. But the timing attack that they could do is like, let's say if you create some zero coin and within a week you spend those zero coin and you spend them on a house and your house is like worth a really high dollar amount and the private detective knows the dollar amount value of the house, and so then he can see within a receiving address who's received that many zero coin, and if you do it all in one transaction, like they could find out who you are. So there could be a couple of precautions you add on top of the zero coin technology if you want to be completely private. But again, this is all private detective work done in the real world outside of what the blockchain offers. So there is no blockchain analysis done with zero coin technology, but because there is blockchain auditability, and again, this is the reason why you can do sort of a timing attack. There's blockchain auditability within zero coin. Every time you mint a zero coin, it's burned and like it goes back to the Zcoin blockchain. So that gives it blockchain auditability, which means you know how many zero coin there are, you know how many Zcoin there are, and you make sure all the numbers add up and nothing ever goes wrong. That's the advantage you gain out of it, which is big, and you need that for widespread adoption. So like I said before, how Dash is kind of trying to be a more private version of Bitcoin, whereas Monero is just a privacy cryptocurrency. Zcoin is like Dash, but better in every way. So the minting that it does, there are some additional security precautions you can do over the top to make it completely private, but it does still allow blockchain auditability, so you can check the blockchain to make sure payments went through and things like that. Now the next coin that we're going to talk about, oh, one more thing I guess with the zero coin protocol, you almost require a proof of stake reward of some kind with zero coin protocol, kind of like the way you do with CoinJoin. With CoinJoin, you need master nodes, which mix your coins. With the zero coin protocol, what they do about the blockchain bloat issues with zero coin, because with the blockchain auditability, there's more data usage, more blockchain bloat in proving that you made the zero coin the correct way. So they do that. The way they deal with that is they offload that onto a proof of stake network, so that really lowers the transaction data held on chain. So it's a real good system that Zerocoin has going on. So they can use a lot of transactions and compete with something like Bitcoin by offloading some of the data, the proofs for the minting of the zero coins onto a proof of stake network. So it's very similar to Dash, just better in every way. So where I see zero coins going, it's Zcoin and Pivx. I see them competing with Pivx. Zcoin because it's so similar to Dash, and it's a hybrid. They're both proof of work and proof of stake, but Zcoin's proof of stake is stronger because with Zcoin's proof of stake, you're getting blockchain bloat off the blockchain, which is basically like the most important thing, as well as ensuring everything's private. That's the same thing Dash is doing, is ensuring everything's private, but again, the Zcoin privacy is much better, and the proof of work, there's more of a reward going to the proof of work part of Zcoin than there is to Dash. And the way the developers made it sound, like I think when the developers reward, the founders reward goes away in Zcoin, I think they're probably going to put more to the mining proof of work aspect than to the proof of stake side, but we'll have to just wait and see how this all plays out. But I see Zcoin competing with Dash eventually. That could take like 2 years, 3 years. But I do see Zcoin competing with Dash. If we look at Pivx, Pivx is a proof of stake version of Zcoin. I really see Pivx as the dominant proof of stake cryptocurrency as far as just all proof of stake cryptocurrencies go. I know there are proof of stake cryptocurrencies with higher market caps, and like Ethereum is going to go proof of stake, it's number 2. But Pivx is a real cryptocurrency. It's not a delegated proof of stake, it's a real proof of stake cryptocurrency. Now, there are issues with proof of stake. I've always said I think proof of stake is less secure than proof of work in the short term, so that makes it act more like bonds. It's something more for long-term transactions and for long-term holding. But I really do think that Pivx could compete with something like Zcoin, or like with that, not Zcoin, but like with the price that Zcoin is at now. I could see Pivx being $50 each easily. That could take a few years, just like Zcoin. With Pivx and Zcoin, I'm kind of waiting on these privacy protocols. It takes a while for people to understand them, and I think the zero coin protocol is the best of the privacy protocols that were offered right now, so I think Zcoin and Pivx are going to be the best of the bunch, but again, that could take quite a while. The next privacy protocol we're going to talk about is Zero Cash, the Zero Cash privacy protocol. It's like the zero coin protocol in that it's zero knowledge, except there is no blockchain auditability, and the reason that they do this is because if they can go without the blockchain auditability, you can't do any sort of like timing attack that you can on zero coin, because with zero cash, well, I mean, you sort of can with zero cash, but I guess we'll talk about this in detail. But with zero coin, every time you mint a zero coin, it has to be done in fixed denominations, so it can only be done in like 1, 5, 10, 15, 25, 50, something like that. And you can fix, or you can change these denominations to whatever you want, just to fit whatever value is necessary. Like you don't want to have a million denominations you can mint them in, but you need enough denominations so that people can, privatize, let's say, $10 worth of your currency. But anyways, with zero cash, you can mint your tokens in any sort of denomination that you want. So you're not restricted to minting in, ones, fives, 25s, 50s like you are in Zcoin and Pivx. And so that makes you have more privacy. But the way you have more privacy is by giving up the blockchain auditability. So you never know in zero cash. Like with zero coin, you know how many zero coin tokens are created. With zero cash, you don't know how many zero coin or zero cash tokens are created. So there could be people who have, minted the supply infinitely and you have no idea about it. And the issue with this too that you got to remember with zero cash and zero coin is they're both trusted setups. So you don't know for sure that they were implemented correctly unless you implemented them yourself. Obviously they probably were implemented correctly, but the good news with zero coin is that even though it's a trusted setup, with zero coin it's never been infinitely inflated, because because it has blockchain auditability, you know what the supply is at all times. With zero cash, you don't know this, so it could be infinitely inflated and you'd have no way of knowing if the trusted setup was broken. The other thing about the zero cash and zero coin protocols is when they use the trusted setup, if the trusted setup is broken, then so is the anonymity, but they're both working to remove it. There's ZK Starks that are coming out. Monero is trying to implement those. If Monero does, you can assume things like Zero Cash and Zen Cash would as well, but you never really know. The thing with ZK Snarks is ZK Snarks have a little more blockchain bloat than the ZK Snarks. ZK Snarks is a Zero Cash protocol, so Zero Cash might stay ZK Snarks just to ensure it gets as many transactions on the blockchain with as much bloat or with as little bloat as possible. But anyways, yeah, with Zero Cash, you get a little bit more privacy than the Zero Coin, Zero Knowledge protocol, but they're both zero knowledge, so they're easy to use. It's not hard at all to get complete privacy through Zero Coin, especially if you wait like a week and just split up your transaction into smaller parts. Then it's almost impossible to trace anything. Whereas you can't get that with Dash, you can't quite get that. But again, Zero Cash, you have no blockchain auditability. So the next thing we're going to actually talk about is Zencash. Zencash is a little different than the Zero Cash system because it's the Zero Cash system, but they also use secure nodes. So what secure nodes do is they offer IP address obfuscation, and so it basically means like if you're using Zencash, it doesn't look like you're using a cryptocurrency. So a lot of people will be like, well, why do you need this level of privacy? This is one thing a lot of people say about privacy cryptocurrencies in general. They're like, what do you have to hide? Why do you have to hide your IP address? And the reason why you have to do it is in case your government's tyrannical. The second reason is like, what do you have to hide? I have to hide my money from thieves. Like that's a stupid question to have to answer. I have to hide my money from thieves. So if you use something like Zencash, nobody knows you're using Zencash. Once they get the secure node system all set up and running, and nobody ever knows, and so how will anybody be able to steal something that they don't know exists? And the other thing that people have to understand is like people are like, oh yeah, well America might be sort of tyrannical, but it's not all that bad. Well, what about China and Korea, which are talking about banning cryptocurrencies? Zencash, if they don't know that your IP address is even using cryptocurrencies, and it's a completely private cryptocurrency, so there's no way to track you through the blockchain, and there's no way to track you through your computer using, accessing that blockchain, then they have no data whatsoever. So for places like China and Korea, I could see something like, or the secure nodes system that Zencash uses, I could see it pushing it way up. So if we look at these Zero Cash protocol coins, again, it's Zcash and Zencash are the main ones I'm watching. Zcash has low bloat and zero knowledge better than Zcoin and Pivx, and by that I just mean the privacy aspects. The high price makes it less appealing to me, and the fact that there's no blockchain auditability, like that gives it sort of issues to me, because if we're just going from like complete privacy, yes, Zcash is better than Zcoin, Pivx, Dash, Monero, all of those, but Zencash is better than Zcash. So we really should talk about Zencash if we're talking about Zcash. So like Zcash will probably remain the dominant Zero Cash protocol coin for a while, but Zencash offers IP address obfuscation at only 3.5% of its block reward, so it's a very small percentage going to IP address obfuscation, which means there's a lot more money for miners, so it has a lot of security. Like, it's a real good setup the way Zencash does it. I like that Zencash. Another thing about the secure nodes that Zencash uses, it says they can be used for anything, so they might use them for, the Lightning Network. They might offer a little more block reward if they use the secure nodes for the Lightning Network. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But I really like Zencash. But those are the Zero Cash protocol coins. Again, Zencash, just like Pivx and Zcoin, I could see Zencash equaling the price of what Zcash is today, but that'll take years. Again, I'm a long-term trader. That's what I'm looking for. The final thing I want to talk about, actually two more things. The final coin, the final protocol I want to talk about is the Wraith protocol that Verge uses. I think that the Wraith protocol is great. I love the privacy protocol of Verge. My real issue is with the mining algorithm. You're going to run out of new Verge being mined in like 8 to 10 years, something like that. So I think it's going to die off because of that. I've always said when a cryptocurrency has no more block reward, it's going to die. And so we're going to see this happen initially with Verge and Grosel coin. They're going to be the first two coins to run out of a block reward and run on transaction fee only. So like, I like the Wraith protocol. I like the privacy aspects of Verge. I don't like the mining protocol, the mining algorithm. But the way that Verge does it is it basically uses Tor and I2P to hide your IP address. So every time you send a transaction, like, nobody knows who is sending, like who's sending the transaction. So there's no, like with Bitcoin, they can just see who's using Bitcoin at the time the transaction was sent, and they can sort of track who you are by that. With Verge, you couldn't ever do this, even if you're using the public or the public part of the blockchain for Verge. But then Verge also has a private blockchain when you're using what they call the Wraith protocol. And the Wraith protocol, you can't see how much or you can't see who's sending to who, and because the IP address obfuscation, like all you see is the transaction, like the amount that the transaction was. And so I think Verge actually offers blockchain auditability. I don't know exactly how it does it. They don't say if it's a zero knowledge thing. They don't say if it's ring signatures. It's really hard for me to figure out exactly what Verge is doing, but when I read that the mining algorithm, the block reward on Verge, was going to die off in 8 to 10 years, I didn't really like it. So as far as price of Verge goes, I don't really know. I'm not going to be investing in it. I was excited about it beforehand, but I don't like that mining algorithm in the block reward. But anyways, the final thing I want to talk about is proof of stake and its effect on privacy coins. Or not proof of stake, but just the Lightning Network and its effect on privacy coins. So the Lightning Network gives it's a lot less or there's a lot more privacy because you're doing transactions off the blockchain. There's a lot of issues I have with the Lightning Network, but because you're doing transactions sort of off the blockchain, it makes the Lightning Network integral to the cryptocurrency itself, and anything that is integral to the cryptocurrency needs to be paid a part of the block reward. So just like with Zcoin, they take some of the block reward and give it to the nodes that are being used to validate the zero coin minting on their blockchain, which is something that is completely necessary for their cryptocurrency to survive. Like, you have to have part of the block reward go to parts of the network that are essential. And so the Lightning Network is essential to cryptocurrencies that will adopt it, or as far as like the SegWit version of the Lightning Network. I'm not talking about the Bitcoin Cash version of Lightning channels, but I'm talking about the SegWit Lightning Network. But any cryptocurrency that adopts the SegWit Lightning Network, I think it's going to have a lot of trouble implementing it if it does not have a proof of stake style reward. So that's my issue with it. But again, it does make these cryptocurrencies a lot more private, and so it could offer IP address obfuscation just because you don't know where transactions are being sent from because they're using other people's channels. So there is a lot of good things for that for a lot of cryptocurrencies that are SegWit activated. But again, the other thing you got to remember with that is sometimes you don't want that privacy. Like, can you still, because the transactions are done off the blockchain, like if you look up on blockchainexplorer.com or like blockchain.info, any of these websites that show you Bitcoin transactions, you won't really be able to see your own transaction. And so that's sort of weird. But as long as the cryptocurrency has proof of stake already in the cryptocurrency and they want to offer private transactions, I think they should be able to do it and keep costs low and keep transaction fees low. They'll have to probably have bigger blocks, like Bitcoin SegWit's 1 megabyte block size that it's like adamant about keeping is really stupid. It's never going to work. But I really think for like the Lightning Network coins, any SegWit activated coin that has a proof of stake reward in it, I think it'll do better. So those are like Dash, Zcoin, Pivx, maybe exclusive coin. Zencash actually can do very well with the Lightning Network. It might actually need to increase the block reward that goes to its proof of stake nodes, but I've always thought that the proof of stake rewards were a little bit too high. I think that the one that Dash uses is definitely too high. Zcoins is lower than Dash's as far as a percentage of its total block reward, but I still think Zcoins is too high. Zencash's I think is perfect for the IP address obfuscation it offers, but if it's going to use the Lightning Network, it might actually need to increase the block reward a little bit. But like Zencash I think is very good as far as having a proof of stake style system, a hybrid that can really benefit from these sorts of things. And the thing you got to remember is even though Zencash hides IP addresses, and it also offers other things like domain fronting, things like that, like you can just implement Lightning nodes into this system and just like it'll just work perfectly fine as well. And so Zencash will offer more than Lightning will in the things that overlap, like it doesn't matter. But anyways, that's my thoughts on privacy cryptocurrencies as well as where I think they're headed, their prices. I'm a big believer in a lot of these young privacy cryptocurrencies in the years ahead, the young ones like Zcoin, Zencash, Pivx. It's not really young, but it has a higher inflation rate than a lot of these other privacy cryptocurrencies, or at least it will for the next like you know, 25 to 75 years, and that inflation rate will be, between 4.5% basically to like 1%. So it's a low inflation rate, but it'll be there. So I really like that for Pivx. So even though it's not quite as young as these other young coins I like, it acts as though it's a young coin because it has a slightly higher inflation rate. Or at least the inflation rate lowers at a slightly slower rate. It doesn't have a higher inflation rate. The inflation rate lowers at a slightly slower rate. But anyways, that's my thoughts on these privacy cryptocurrencies. I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be more coming out soon.